Hello and welcome. My name is Manoj Sharma and I am here to help you pass the CISSP exam. In this entire video, I have covered a lot of questions related to domain 1 and domain 2. These questions are CISSP practice questions which will help you to not only understand the kind of questions you may get in the CISSP exam, but they will also help you find those kind of tricks. How do you comprehend the question right and you answer the question right? So this entire video has been broken into chapters. Feel free to skip certain sections if you feel you are already confident in that particular area, or else you can also pause the screen when there is a question there on the screen, and you can try to find your answer and then validate with my explanation. So sit back, relax, and let's dive straight away into the questions. So the first question on your screen. Okay team, a very interesting response on this particular question. So let's go and try this out. The question says, which of the following describe an information steward? So this is a very testable topic in domain 2. This is related to the data ownership from a company internal perspective, and there are certain rules which you should know. For example, data owner, then data steward, then the data custodian, and the data user. These are the 4 things you must be very clear about it in the exam. So here the question is testing you on information steward. That's the question. Okay, with that said, let's go with that. Option number A, someone with responsibility to maintain security controls on the data. Now, who maintains the security controls on the data? It is always going to be the data custodian. Okay, data custodian is responsible for day-to-day management of the data and upkeep all the security controls which are there. Whatever technical stuff you can think of, right, is taken by the data custodian. Now, if you want to really relate this to your company environment, you can think of like your IT team, your database admin, your server admin, your IT team, your help desk. They are the people who are actually data custodian, right? Definitely not our answer, because we are looking for data steward, so we will not go with A. I'm really sorry for those people who have answered it as A. Let's go with option number B. Someone with authority to produce directives and policies to secure data. Now, this option is very important. Someone who has the authority. Who is going to have the authority to create policies and all of that? If you have gone through domain number 2, my classes, you know that the final accountable person who is going to have the final accountability of the data, that is the data owner, and he is the only person who have the authority and who has the active, you can say, accountability as well to create these policies so that people follow the same, right? So that is nothing but data owner. Okay, so definitely not for something what we are looking for. So sorry for those people who have answered B. I don't think many people have answered B. That's okay. Let's go with option number C. Option number C says someone with responsibility to ensure the security controls on data is managed appropriately. Responsibility to ensure. Guys, please note down. These are very important things from the CISSP perspective. You have to be very mindful of the chosen like selection of the word. It says responsibility to ensure. You know who ensures that the policy has been implemented correctly, the database schema has been implemented correctly, the compliance is there, the quality is managed. Who manages that? That is nothing but data steward. Okay, so that is the correct answer in this particular case. But let's also see the last one as well. From a concept perspective, it says an individual from whom the information is being collected. That's a bold poor guy, right? From him the data is getting collected. So it's nothing but the end user. Okay, it's the end user. So out of the 4, the system has indirectly, they have tried to test you. Do you know the responsibility? They have not directly asked you the definitions, but they are trying to check if you know the different characteristics or the different roles responsibility of a data custodian. So these kind of questions definitely you should expect in the CISSP exam. I hope this gives you a good insight. And in this, let's go and read the question. A marketing team has developed a new set of documents for crafting social media content. How do you prepare the social media content? How? Isn't it? So are you not getting a sense of how here? So let's keep it aside. This document outlined the brand, voice, appropriate content format and engagement strategies. So this is what it is covered in the document. The document is not mandatory, keyword. It is not mandatory, but should be followed by all social media content creators within the company. This document can be categorized as number 1, standard. So guys, standard are there to support policies, and standards are always mandatory, isn't it? Standards are always mandatory. It can never be optional. If in case you are not following a particular standard, you have to take a formal approval. There is a exception process in the company where security team will validate the risk in deviating from the standard, and then only they will give you a time bound exception. So it cannot be standard. So sorry for all those people who have answered it as A. We'll go to B, and B says policies. Guys, policy is also mandatory. Adherence to the policy is mandatory, and again, if there is a pressing business need, then you need to go and take a approval. There is an exception process. So even B cannot be your answer. Number C is procedure, and it looks like to me as if it is a procedure, even though procedure is also mandatory. Now here is the trick. Even procedure is also mandatory, right? But the question, you get a sense of how. Don't you think you are getting a sense of how? And out of these 3 things, right? The policy says what need to be done. Okay. Then standard says exactly, it elaborate what and tell you what to do. It goes in depth. Or the policy also say you why something has to be done. The standard will say what has to be done, and procedure will tell you how it has to be done. Law obviously is a very Congress kind of thing, and we are talking in the context about a marketing team. We are talking about the internal to the company. So law is nothing but a distractor. So this goes out. Now, even though, to be very honest, all these 3 answers are wrong, because if we go and pick up non-mandatory, then all 3 answers are wrong. But anyways, we are in the exam, we are sitting, we are not getting the appropriate answer there, but we have to find the best. So to find the best, the only thing is you also have to work out that this is talking about the how sense, and that is how you are going to answer this as the option. Got it, guys? Does it give you some kind of mental setup? What kind of tricking can happen in the exam? The exact right choice. If it would have been a very straightforward question, if I have given you one more option, let's say guidelines. So we know guidelines are optional. They are not mandatory to be followed, and they also talk about what should be done, what should not be done. They talk a lot on the guidance, but deliberately this particular guidelines they have removed from the option, and they are telling you now, if this is not there, can you think further and tell me what is the best? So that is the mindset. Sometimes they may trick you. I hope this gives you very good input, just the kind of tricks which are played in the exam. So let's go through and talk about this. Question says, an organization chief information security officer CISO is discussing security practices with the chief finance officer. Point to be noted, my lord, it is chief finance officer, right? After a significant data breach. Okay, there has been a data breach as well that resulted in financial loss. Okay, another keyword. How can the CISO best, okay, best is another keyword, articulate the need for a robust incident response plan? So articulation is another keyword. You have to emphasize about incident response plan to the CFO to secure approval. You want to get the approval and he has to communicate to CFO. CFO stands for Chief Finance Officer. So you are going to talk as a security guy, you are going to talk to the Chief Finance Officer. Now these people don't know anything about security, obviously, right? You know that they are least bothered about security because obviously they are more focused, their area of operation is something different, they are more focused on the finance part. So in this entire thing your focus has to be on finance. How you are going to convince as a security guy, because you know security guy in the objective number 1.3 during governance we have also understood that security has to be aligned with business, because costing and budget also comes as part of it. You need to make sure that you have that convincing power, you are a very good communicator as a security guy, and in that way what is the best way to communicate to finance when it comes to security controls. So let's go through and see. It ensures that all security incidents are documented and reported to senior management for compliance purposes. Is CFO responsible for compliance? Maybe a chief compliance officer or maybe a GRC function might be responsible for compliance, not the CFO. So if you communicate them in the way of a GRC team, I don't think he's going to listen to it. So obviously this particular thing goes out of equation. Let's go to the option number B, and it says it facilitates a coordinated and efficient response. So this is more on the security side and collaboration side. Second thing, it says minimize the duration and impact of the incident. So impact of incident can be on the financial loss also. So he is coming online. Own operations and financial performance. So he has hinted about financial performance as well. So this stands out to me as of now, but I will wait. I will see if there is a better option. I will go to option number C. It says it provides a framework for coordinating forensic analysis to identify the root cause of security incident. So that is a concern of a security team. Why CFO is bothered about it, isn't it? So this particular option goes out to me. Let's go on the fourth. Maybe we get the preferred choice, right? It says it ensures that incident response activities are aligned with business continuity planning, reducing the likelihood of extended downtime. So extended downtime, definitely it will cause business loss. So very, very close answer. But do you feel downtime, specifying the downtime is enough, or here in this particular case they have specifically said financial performance? So what do you feel the CFO will be more interested in? What can actually make a pitch for him? I think that is financial performance, right? And that is where this we will go off and we will find this as the answer. So B is the correct answer in this particular case. And this is a very important thing, a very important concept where you may be tested how as a security guy you have to actually communicate security. You can be part of a leadership team, you have to secure your maybe funds and approvals and all of this. Another use case they may also give you is that you are a part of the change management team and business is pressing you to do something, then what should be your behavior? So in a change management team also you have to be extremely positive. Do not say no, say it is possible, but there is a risk associated with that, and this may also lead to this much financial impact and this and that. That is the way to communicate. So that is a very important skill, as part of your CISSP exam, you should know. So I hope this gives you a lot of insight, and with that we will go to the next question. Okay team, again a lengthy question, you know, and again I am testing you on a very important concept, because this is definitely very testable in the CISSP exam. So let's go through and talk about this particular question. It says a large retail company is implementing a new customer relationship management system. Okay, that's fantastic. The system will contain a vast amount of customer data, including name, address and purchase history. So that means there is sensitive information also, isn't it? Okay, it says who within the company would be accountable for establishing a transparent privacy policy for customers. Who is accountable to do that, guys? Simply, it's not saying responsible, it's saying accountable. So you know, when it comes to data, who is the final accountable person? It is always the data owner, and data owner is the accountable person, and that is why he has to make all the policy and related arrangement. Who is going to have access to the data, what classification should be assigned to the data, how the entire process should work of giving the ID and revoking the access, all of this, what kind of security control should be there, what are the compliance thing which has to be followed. So final accountability lies with the data owner, and he may delegate these responsibility, let's say, to be to a data steward or the data custodian, but accountability is with him, right? So definitely it's not data custodian, because it's the IT team. They are responsible, they are not accountable. Data owner is accountable, and that is where we are talking about accountable, and we are saying this is the right option. But again, let's see why not data steward. So data steward is appointed by the data owner, and then he is the guy who is going to ensure that all governance policies and everything is implemented on ground. So if in a particular question you feel like I am not getting the exact answer, let's say in this particular question, if I say this guy is not there, and let's say it's a very tricky situation, they give something, some xxx something they put here which is unrelated, what should be your answer then? If no data owner, then the next level you are going to call it as data steward. So please understand, after data, see, data steward is also just responsible, not accountable. But if the question is tricking you too much, then you have to go and find and put your best cognitive mindset there, and that is where you have to go with data steward. Okay, so but in this particular case, fortunately we have the data owner, so no problem whatsoever. But data steward will not be there, because data steward owner is also there. But now I know some of you may get also confused between data owner and data controller. So what is the basic thin line difference? In the books also you will see they have used it like this: data owner slash data controller. In many books you will see like this in CISSP book, which is actually wrong. Why I am saying this actually wrong, and why I have used this word here? From a within the company, I have used a word within the company, right? Just to make sure you don't get confused. So whenever you need to talk about the data roles within a company, okay, within a particular company, like internal to a company, it is always data owner. The final accountability lies with the data owner. But as a company, as an entity, if you are dealing with customer data, somebody has to collect that particular data, somebody has to process that particular data. That time, from an entity perspective, we are using the word, let's say, data controller or data processor, all of this. In your company, do you say that particular guy is a data processor? We never say, right? We don't say that way. So it is more about the entity perspective. I think you need to be clear on that particular concept, because there might be confusing question on. So I hope guys you got the right answer. Right answer is data owner. And with that said, let's go to the next question. Okay team, very interesting question, and this particular question is going to test you on the understanding of the laws. Now if you remember my classes, I have told you there are three important things you need to understand from a law perspective. You don't need to become a champion and you don't need to dig too much deeper into this as well. Number one thing which you are going to do is you need to understand which particular country the law applies. Number one. Second thing, in which particular industry the law apply, right? And then just the bottom line, to what is the main thing which has been mentioned, the main bottom line of the entire law. If you are having these three punch lines, these three punch statements with you, this particular section is not going to create any trouble for you in the exam. With that said, let's go and read this particular question. It says a federal agency is developing a new cloud-based system. Okay, and it says federal agency, so always make a habit of noting down these keywords like this. It says developing a new cloud-based system to store and manage sensitive citizen data. So sensitive is definitely a keyword. Which of the following regulations, now they are asking about regulations, right? In addition to the Privacy Act of 1974, definitely that is one of the act which was there in US. I think this was one of the very primitive law which came on privacy, and this actually restrict the government to perform a surveillance on the citizen by tapping their phones and everything. That is why the name is Privacy Privacy Act of 1974. And there is one more word we use in this particular one which says electronic information. So it also talks about that the government should not tap your phones and take up your privacy related information, all of that. Okay, so that is why 1974, and when the 1911 happens, 9/11, when 9/11 happened, that time the government has to come up with a new law which was called as Patriot Law, to overcome this particular law 1974, just to have monitoring and find and do the investigation. So that is what has happened at that point of time. Now we'll go forward. Would most likely impact the security requirement for this particular system. So one thing very important, it applies to the federal agency. Second thing, on cloud, and there is customer sensitive information which is there, and it is asking about the security requirement for this particular system. So let's go through all of the option and we'll see which applies, which does not. We'll take it from the bottom. FedRAMP is a great framework, but that is for applicable for not for federal agencies. It is applicable for all those companies who want to work with federal companies, federal agencies, and they have their data hosted on cloud. So definitely it was looking a very close answer, but it is not, because this is not applicable for federal agencies, it is for companies, number one. Second thing, it is a framework, it is a framework, it is not a law, it is not a regulation. So there are 2 points for me where I can negate this option number D. Then I will go to option number C, which says Graham-Leach-Bliley Act. This particular law, it was more about the financial institutions. It is more about financial institutions, and here our focus is not financial institutions. So this particular law also is out of focus. Then we will go and talk about HIPAA. HIPAA talks about healthcare information, so obviously does not apply. The last one is Federal Information Security Management Act, FISMA. So FISMA of 1996 or 1998. You can check the year in there, but FISMA is a very important thing which has to be followed by all federal agencies. FISMA is specifically designed to be followed up by the federal agencies. It tells that all federal agencies, they must actually maintain a security program, and that is how they should run it. So this is the main thing, and that is why I would say A is the right option. So you can check your understanding on that, and that is how we are done with this. We'll go with the next question. Okay guys, let's go through this question, and this says which of the following techniques. So the question is basically from domain number 2. It talks about techniques involves replacing sensitive data elements with a non-sensitive equivalent. That's great. We do that a lot, right? Whenever we need to anonymize or something like that. So that's okay. Then it says derived from a random or pseudo-random value and stored the mapping of these values in a secure database for later recovery. Okay, that means we have to recover it as well. Okay, ensuring that the original data can be retrieved when necessary. So few concepts here before we go and answer. You must know one thing is, whenever there is sensitive information and we don't want that everybody should have the access to this particular information, there are various data obfuscation techniques we apply, and in that you need to also understand what is the basic difference between anonymization and pseudonymization. Okay, the basic difference is anonymization is removing sensitive data from a document permanently and you don't need it back. For example, your friend says, I need a format for one of your project client and I am going to use it for some other client. Would you give the client information to that? No, you will redact that particular information and then only give. Do you need it back? No, you don't need it back. Similarly, when you give some data to the test environment from the production environment, you don't need it back. So you are going to anonymize it completely remove it irreversibly and you give it to them. So that is anonymization. Pseudonymization is where you use some pseudo character or some kind of weird character actually to replace some part of the particular sensitive information, and then what you do, either you generate these pseudo numbers by using a particular formula, okay, or what you do, you keep a mapping. Okay, if I have changed 1 2 3 4 by A B C D, I am going to put A B C D and 1 2 3 4 in a particular mapping. Or you generate a process where you generate this by using a algorithm and generate it. So these are the two methods in which actually we do that. Now, because in this particular case you need the data back as well, so symmetric key encryption, the first option says symmetric key encryption. So symmetric key encryption is going to, maybe it can encrypt everything, but I think the question is more hinting about the privacy related information, some part of the sensitive information which you need to remove. So even though symmetric key encryption can be used here, but we will see if this is the most applicable case in this one. Okay, got it guys? Because if you encrypt certain data with encryption, you are going to place ciphertext, right? You are going to replace that plain text with the ciphertext, and this can also sometimes give you you know what, people to compare the plain text and the ciphertext. Let's say I am writing something A B C D and E F G H, I need to encrypt, and let's say I put hash 1 2 3 and some other pattern. So at least this can lead to, you know, in cryptography you have gone through one of the attack which is called as, do you guys know what is that attack? Known plain text attack. So that can lead to this if you give it freely. So I don't think that's the preferred thing. So but still we can use it definitely, but not the preferred choice. The next thing says data masking. Now what is data masking? Data masking is also reversible as well. For example, when you type in your password, your password get converted into a stick mark, and when you click on show password, it show you the password also. But this is only for display purposes. This can prevent you from displaying the password and all. This is not very usable method for a long term perspective, not for storage perspective. So we are not going to use it. Then data obfuscation. Data obfuscation is a very broader term which says that hiding the data, and it is just not saying hiding the data. It says replacing sensitive data element with a non-sensitive equipment, or sorry, non-sensitive equivalent. That means some processing is happening there, right? So that is where we will not go with this, and we will go with tokenization, because tokenization is a process. For example, you have your credit card 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and you replace it with some character A B C F C 3 2 4. So this becomes now your token, and this is mostly used in credit card, payment industry a lot as well. So definitely the answer is D in this particular case. Okay team, again very interesting question, and this one is a knowledge base bomb. Okay, so sometimes these kind of questions will also come. It says an organization need to protect sensitive customer data stored in a database while still allowing for continuous analytics. Oh man, we know if you want to do the analytic on the data, then you need to first decrypt it, and then you need to perform analytics on that. But what the question is saying, they need to protect sensitive data stored in database. That means all the time it has to be encrypted as well. So you need encryption also, and you need at the same time analytics also to work. Which of the following data security techniques would be the most appropriate in this particular scenario? So encryption, we know encryption is a two-way function. We can encrypt and then we can decrypt, but if you encrypt a particular data, it is very hard to perform the analytics on top of it. It doesn't work that way. All the data which sits in your random access memory is all decrypted all the time, so may not be the preferred choice in this particular case. Masking is just a data obfuscation technique that cannot be used for securing the data. Please don't think that it is just hidden so it is secure. No, don't be in that particular false sense of security. So this is not right. Tokenization is to replace certain character with something else. If in this particular case you can use tokenization, but if you need to do the analytics, can you do the analytics on not on the real data and on the token? No, right? It will not help you. So tokenization will not also help you in this particular case. So that is also down. Then comes homomorphic encryption. This is the encryption. It's a kind of encryption which allows computation to be performed directly on the encrypted data. And I think in my classes on domain number 2, I also told Google also have it. Google also implement something. Google some word they are using, right? Catchy word they are using. So that's the thing. It's a knowledge based question, guys. Okay team, very interesting question and very testable topic in the CISSP exam. At least expect one question from this particular area, 101%. One question or two questions you will definitely get. So the question is asking, a security consultant discovers a critical vulnerability in a client system but is unsure if it has already been exploited by attacker. So critical vulnerability is one of the keyword, and unsure if it has already been exploited by the attacker is another keyword. It says according to ISC2 code of ethics, which of the following actions should the consultant take first? So first is the third keyword in this particular case. Now whose data is this? Client system, right? This is also a keyword, so it is in the client system, and you are not sure either it has been compromised, but you got a vulnerability. Now they are asking you simply what should be your approach as per the 4 ISC2 code of ethics which has been mentioned. What is the first one? Just a quick revision, guys. What is the first one? It is the social good. You have to always work in the interest of the society. That is always your top priority. Forget about other rules. That's your number one priority. The second ethics talks about your professional ethics, where you have to work honestly, you have to honor everybody, You have to go and be very honest and honest to your principles, and you have to be justly. For example, in certain cases you are doing an investigation, you don't have to be biased as well at the same time. So it is talking more about the professional ethics. So ethics number 2 is related to professional ethics, the priority number 2 when it comes to ISC2 code of ethics. Number 3 is all about giving your best services to your employer, and they call it as principle. That's your number 3. And number 4 is advancing the profession, right? So you yourself has also to be advanced, learning new skill and all. At the same time, you should promote cybersecurity all the time. So these are the 4 ethics from them. Now based on that, we will pick up this question from D. The D option says document the vulnerability and wait for further instruction from the client. Just document? Are you just going to document and be turned after that? No, it cannot be, man. That means you are not a security professional, not a right security professional. Whenever you get a vulnerability and it is critical vulnerability to whomever, you cannot be just document and stay there. It is ignorance, and ignorance is not a way in security. Anytime you feel any sense of ignorance in a particular option, never go for it. So this is a clear eliminator. Number C, it says report the vulnerability to a relevant security authority without informing the client. So without informing the client, without informing the data owner or controller, you are directly going to authorities. You are bypassing the process. And as a security guy, CISSP not only test you on your knowledge, they also test your organizational skill as well. So definitely, if you go and bypass the client, directly go to the authority. You have your seniors, right? Tell your seniors, they will tell to the client, then you should be talking to the authority. That should be the right way. That is why this can be definitely eliminated. Number B option, conduct further investigation to determine if the system has been compromised. Further investigation, is this system owned by you? Not owned by you, it is client system. They are the one who are going to take a decision on that. You need to be always clear about roles and responsibility. So never overstep somebody else's responsibilities. Again, this is a violation of the ISC2 code of ethics. So not good. Definitely this is not the right option. First one is notify the client immediately and recommend mitigation strategies. Definitely you can advise them and you can inform them. That's the best thing to do. So that is how we reach to the option number A. Okay team, I see a lot of misalignments, so let's go through this particular question. This question says a company processes large amount of customer payment data. So customer payment data, that means always sensitive. They have implemented basic security measures like firewall and antivirus software. So at least they have implemented basic this thing. What does this reflect to you? Should this be under due care or due diligence?
Due care.
It should be due care, because due care is the expected, you can say, prudent behavior in a given situation. What you should do as a good guy, what you are supposed to do as a good guy, right? That is what. So at least you need to have some basic security principles there. However, they haven't conducted a security risk assessment on the payment software in last 2 years. What is, if you are not able to identify gaps in your processes, what you will call? Is it due care or due diligence? It is due diligence. The gap finding, the research finding, all the research you do, the analytics you do to derive a particular decision, all of this, that is coming under due diligence. So it says for last 2 years you haven't conducted a risk assessment. That means you have not identified your gaps enough, right? That means it is due diligence. Which of the following statement is most accurate? Now you see, they have given the company is demonstrating both due care and due diligence. No. The company is demonstrating due care but lacking in due diligence, I think, right? Do you guys agree with me? As per the whatever we just discussed, right? it looks like true. Let's go and see. The company is demonstrating due diligence but lacking in due care. No, due diligence is what they are missing, due care is what they are exercising, so that is another way, so it will not be the answer. The company is failing in both due care and due diligence. As an overall, you can say that one is dependent on another, as Kader also said, but in this particular question, try to understand what they are trying to ask and give only what they want. So that is the reason why we are going with the option number B. Okay team, another question and another perspective. So this question says a company experiences a data breach that exposes, okay, let me put my highlighter, that exposes sensitive customer information, okay, exposes sensitive customer information. According to the principle of incident response, which of the following action should the company take immediately following the discovery of the breach? The moment you identify this particular breach, what should be your first act? Conduct a root cause analysis to identify how the breach occurred. I think that is important aspect, but that comes later. When you are also done with the mitigation part or the recovery part, then you go with the root cause part, right? So definitely this will come later. This is not the immediate step, so we'll not go ahead with that. Second thing, it says notify law enforcement and cooperate with their investigation. I think that is the entire intent of the question, to ask you that, because it is a data breach case and you are exposing sensitive customer information also. And you know, in many cases, many regulation, it is the clear you know, mandate that you have to go and tell to the legal authorities, to the regulatory authorities, even if the breach is not yet confirmed. You don't have to say like only when the breach will get confirmed I will go. You can take another 4 or 5 days to confirm the breach. That may take time. So you don't have, even if you suspect a particular breach, that is why the word is suspect. Even if you suspect a breach, you have to go and inform the legal authority. So looks like very nice to me, but we will still see other options. Option number C says focus on restoring affected systems and recovering lost data. I think this is part of the recovery step, but I think that's not immediately, right? Immediate, what should be there? Immediate is containment and notifications, right? Containment and communication is the first thing you are going to do. So that is why this is not going to be the option. Then issue a public press release to disclose the breach to customers and stakeholders. So it says disclose to the stakeholder. That means you are going to release a public press release. For that you have to, that's not an immediate step. I think before this you have to first try to contain. So in the question, is there an option to contain anywhere? We don't see the containment state. So if you're not able to contain, what is your next state as per the security this principle? That means to notify. So that should be the right answer. Even to the public press will come later. Okay, it will come later. Okay guys, so that is why the right option for this is this. So if we have to see this entire thing in a sequence, first will be containment, then going to be notification or communication. Okay, then it is going to you know, you are going to, if you have to find out from this, then focus on restoring. It is going to be number 1, number 2, number 3, then number 4 and number 5, or maybe number 4 and number 5 may interchange based on the type of incident. Okay, so that's going to be the right sequence. With that said, let's go to the next question. So if you are still confused, B is the right answer. Okay team, next question, and this is focused more on awareness. Okay, so a threat model identifies a high risk scenario involving a social engineering attack on employees to gain access to sensitive information, customer data. Which mitigation strategy would be most effective in addressing this particular threat? Now, whenever it comes to people, the best control is always security awareness. Even though security awareness is not foolproof, but this helps to change the people behavior always, right? And just not security awareness is sufficient. If people say security awareness is sufficient, not at all. You also need to implement appropriate technical control first, and then focused ongoing on a security awareness program, so that you are able to minimize that further. Okay, you are going to have a technical control, and then to further minimize, you are going to implement it. So let's go through and talk. It says implementing strong network access control. So a strong network access control will fail if people are getting into they are becoming victim of the social engineering attack. Okay, so even if network security controls are there, they may sometimes fail because humans can sometimes override, or they can take some alternate route to do it. So that is why not the preferred choice. Encrypting all customer data at rest. So if you encrypt all customer data at rest also, end of the day, this data has to be processed also, and people are processing it all the time, and if they become part of social engineering, they may lose out data, right? You cannot always keep data encrypted, right? It has to be processed also, it has to transmit also. So not the right choice. Conducting a regular security awareness training program for employees. This will help to change the you can say behavior or culture of the particular company. And in this particular case, because risk scenario is talking about social engineering, awareness is the best control for that. The last one says deploying a next generation firewall. What firewall will do if the customer itself is copying and giving somebody data? What firewall will do in that particular case? So may not be effective. So question like this, you need to go with security awareness. So when it comes to the expectation of the end user, a particular end user as a layman, he is not a security guy, he is not anybody, but minimum level of expectation is there from a end customer. That is where security awareness is always the answer. Keep that as a thumb rule. Okay, so let's go through the last question for today. Okay team, this particular question is basically taken from the objective number 1.11, which talks about the supplier risk management. So it says a company relies heavily on a single vendor for critical network security software. Single vendor. The vendor has recently experienced a data breach. What is the most appropriate action for the company to take in this particular scenario? Number one, terminate the contract with the vendor and find a new supplier. This can be an immediate impact on the company because they say it is a single vendor. So may not be the best choice. So we'll go and drop this particular idea. Next one says demand a detailed explanation of the breach and implement additional security control within the company owned network. I think that's the best thing you can do if you are expecting that your vendor has been breached or something, right? And then slowly you try to find out some other controls. So I think it makes sense, but we'll go through other options as well. Option number C says as accept the inherent risk and continue using the vendor software as long as it functions properly. I think this is ignorance, right? And they say accept the inherent risk. You don't know by now how much is the risk. You have not calculated the risk. You are simply going to accept, means it's not the right way to do. So that is why we have to drop this particular idea also. And number 4 says negotiate a discount on the software license for the fee due to security breach. So security breach is such a big thing. It cannot be just compromised just with some kind of negotiation. So I think this is giving a wrong sense altogether. So that is why B is the clear winner. So we have reached the end of this session. I hope you enjoyed the entire video, and if you're somebody who is looking to pass these CISSP, CISM, CISSP certifications, this is the best place to be in, and feel free to subscribe to this channel. I am going to see you in another video, but till then, if you want to see more success story from us, go ahead and see the other playlist. If you're interested in understanding the core concept, there is an entire series on the core concept. And if you are looking for enrolling into the program, feel free, in the description below we have all the details for you. You can connect us and schedule a call with us. With that said, I will take a leave and I am going to see you in the next video.